I don't think there's going to be any hiccups in the talent that we acquire. I think it would be very rare. Southampton, they when you look back at some of the players that they acquired, with Mitchell there was a couple of misses, but for the most part, they hit the nail right on the head every single time, and it's made that club a lot of money in sales. It really has, and they still have a solid squad that they can put out. Who'd have thunk it 3 years ago that Southampton would be sitting 6th, 7th in contention for top 5 2 years ago in the Premier League? It doesn't happen but they have built such a solid squad. They've done smart business. I think Koeman did a really good job with that squad this year, because did not all three of us think that they were going to get relegated after the off season of sales that they had? They were losing players left and right.
Yeah, I think they were a success story. Well, 2 success stories. Them, Leicester.
I think Monk did a great job, though.
Dead last at Christmas. Their run towards the end of the season was nothing short of remarkable for a team that was dead and buried. We've talked about this on the pod before, how, granted, we did the double over them, but in both games they gave us a real fight.
We should have lost both of those games.
We should have. Absolutely should have. Yeah.
But I always made the comment, I felt like they were a good team. I felt like they just had a series of unfortunate things happen to them at terrible
Lemony
times.
Snicket was in their dressing room for sure. And, Nigel Pearson's a character, and the league needs people like that. We miss the Ian Holloways of the world, and God forbid Harry Redknapp, because they've got great sound bites that add some colour to the league. And
lost another today. Lost Sam Allardyce.
He doesn't add colour.
Oh, I think he does. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think anyone likes
He's
Sam
going to
Allardyce. Yeah. He's off to Madrid.
Where do you think Sherwood's going?
And Klopp is off to West Ham.
Right. West Ham, they are a bit like us. I mean, they are very deluded, and we certainly have our moments of delusion.
They're more deluded than us.
Yeah, no, I would agree. agree.
Their grandeurs of illusion are, just a little headier than us. It's interesting when we, and we'll get back onto the window and our wants and needs. If you cast your mind back, and as I mentioned earlier, the 5-point gap between what we did last year and this year, it's all how everything adds up at the end of the day. But to come 5th on 64 points is a bit of a wow achievement, considering we were a place below with 5 points more last season. If you think about our best season in the Premier League, and I believe it was it Harry's last season? No, actually, it was AVB's first season. We got 72. Well, that got us 5th and missed out on our Champions League by a point. It was better than when Harry took us into the Champions League, because I believe that season we were on 70 points. We'd actually had 10 losses under AVB. We had the 72 points, and we only had 8 losses. So arguably, from a performance standpoint, that was one of our best seasons, but we missed out, and it spiraled from there, because last season we had 11 losses, this season 12. That's the one thing that's kind of alarmed me as we look at these statistics, is how we've slipped a little bit in the pecking order, and to lose 12 games is certainly not Champions League form, because if you look at the other teams that were around us, United, as much as they had some woeful times, they only lost 8. City and Arsenal only lost 7, and that's what we were doing under Harry and AVB for a while. We were keeping the losses under 10, and I think once you're under 10 losses over the course of the season, you give yourself a fighting chance. It just depends what you do with the draws, and that's where United screwed up. They had too many draws. They had 10 draws. We only had 7. We only had one win less than United, but it's those losses, and you can pinpoint where they were. You could say it was Palace away when we were leading, how woeful we were against Stoke, Newcastle, and West Brom at home, and Villa. You could just pick those 5 games and say, what if those results were different? But that's football. You're gonna have any team is gonna have results. Liverpool losing to Palace at home, you're always going to have results that turn the form book on its head, and that's part and parcel of the season. And you can look back on any season throughout Tottenham's history. 61-62. Who would have thought newly promoted Ipswich former Spurs Alf Ramsey winning home and away, preventing us from winning a double-double.
Yeah.
That to me is probably the thing in our history that really, really irritates me. I wasn't even born. But that would have been, how momentous would that have been in Spurs history if we'd won the double-double? You'd never be taking that away from. Anyway, I digress. Back to the transfer window. I'll get my anorak off now, put away for the night. I'll say no more.
And that's why the English league. That's why this league is so great, because top to bottom, anybody can be knocked off by anybody. And I think that's what makes it. I really do, because there are leagues out there where that just does not happen. In some of the bigger leagues, it's like that. Italy, it's like that. You're not going to get the 16, 17, 18, 19 teams knocking off Inter and Juventus and Roma and all the teams at the top. You're just not on the basis like you do in England. I think it's really cool.
I just wish it happened more times to Arsenal this season.
Yeah, well, and as soon as they got nicked by us, they didn't lose again until they lost to Swansea. So 10 games. It just we lit their fire. Oh well, whatever.
Not the first time we've done that.
And that's supposed to be their time of the season where they go into the crapper, and unfortunately it went the other way.
Mm-hmm. So this Wimmer kid has come out from FC Köln, and he has said that he's going to Spurs. There's been no major announcement, no nothing. Apparently he's come out and said something to the news media over there that he's coming. Now, he's a center back, so you go and you try to find him on YouTube, and you're looking at a center back. They're not that flashy. It's nothing really to look at. It's not like you're going out and trying to find the next winger or center forward that you're being linked with on YouTube and finding it, or expecting to see something great. You're just not. But he's another young one. I wonder if the Rabiot rumors are still true from PSG. He's 19. So he would be another kid coming in the midfield. The Konoplyanka thing kind of got reborn and dead all in the same week.
The Metro.
Oh my God.
The Metro had us had 4 players, I think, this week signed, sealed, and delivered to us. Yevon was one. Who was the other? Jackson Martinez was another.
Oh God.
I'm not interested in Martinez.
I'm not either. What is he? 306 years old?
Yeah, he's
look,
29.
He scores a lot of goals in
almost
Portugal. 20. I'm sorry.
Oh, and there was Ezekiel
Lavezzi. I don't want Lavezzi. I love him to death.
No.
I don't want him.
And all of these women are included, right? I mean, having cover at center back, I mean, I suppose there's a need, but it's certainly not a priority. I mean, it's maybe our third, fourth need. I mean, defensively, we need cover at right back. So but clearly Mitchell must see something in him. But by all accounts, most people that know a good bit about the Bundesliga don't talk about him. So then you have Lavezzi, another aging guy who's on massive wages, whose attitude has been questioned. So that doesn't make sense. Yevon certainly does, because I think to some degree there may be a free deal to do there. He's got some Russian mob guys, I think, that or Ukrainian mob guys that own him. No, it's true. It's true. You read up on it. It's
maybe
crazy.
they can buy the club.
Yeah, it's like this syndicate of guys that own him, and not the kind of guys that you really want to be associated with, right? And then so all these players that are mentioned this week is just like, well, I don't know. None of them really make a whole lot of sense.
No.
Except for Trippier.
Yeah. Now this is a Spurs
Trippier.
business. This he was named in Stan Collymore team of the season.
Really?
So, yeah, he was.
I didn't know that.
A lot of people, and I just saw some summary stats on him, compared against Zabaleta and some other good defenders. A lot of people think that he is, that he's way too good for the championship, and that he is a talent, and he is a young England player in the waiting, and that he's got all the skills. It's just, young defenders need time and need trials, need practice.
And think about the comparisons that will be made should that come to fruition, of how Davies, we were lauding that signing, and that was one of the earlier ones. He comes in, we're all, Danny Rose, oh, what a horrible season last year, and arguably he's one of our players of the season this past season, because Davies gave him the competition that wasn't there, because Asuikoto was frozen out, and that was a done deal. So Rose went, I've got no competition. And it kind of showed in his play. He had a couple of off performances this season, but when we were on our bad run recently, he was the shining star in every performance. He just ran and ran and ran. At times he was still out of position, but he gave you that added dimension that Davis doesn't do going forward. And so let's say Trippier comes in and does the same thing to Walker. And maybe Trippier is better than Walker. We don't know at this point. But that, I think, is certainly not lost on the hierarchy in the club as to what happened. And I think that's why you've got to have competition for places, not people pouting that I'm not in the team and I need to get out of here. It's people saying, you know what, I'm going to get my position back, and this is how I'm going to prove that.
Yeah, no, those are all very good points. And a couple of other things to sort of add to the intrigue about him is that the one thing that they say he's really very good at is moving the ball forward. He provides good service. That's a position. You look at Walker. That's a position that we have done well with modest spends and young players. So I'm encouraged by our history there. It's also interesting what that means for DeAndre Yedlin, and that if that signing does become a reality,
he needs a year in the championship.
Yeah, I think you're going to see him. I think you're going to see him loaned out. He was so cheap. I mean, they only bought him for like $1 million or $2 million.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was a big signing. It was a clever signing from a marketing perspective. But I think that certainly says that, or that certainly could point to Yedlin being surplus to sort of our immediate plans. So yeah, that's the kind of signing I think those are the kind of signings that I'm hopeful that we make, so that we can, I guess next up is maybe like a Lars Bender, and he won't be cheap. I mean, he'll probably be somewhere between 15 and 20 million. So if you buy the 3.5 million guys, and they work out, you can. It'll serve as a nice blueprint to have big money signings, every once in a while.
I want to reiterate what you said earlier too. I think we really need to move early. I loved what Mourinho did last year. Chelsea made a shit ton of signings and a shit ton of sales, and when it was all said and done, they actually made money on all their deals because of everything they got for De Bruyne and others. Felipe, Luis, they made 50-something million off of him, but they were done within the first month of the off season, and they just sat. It's like me. I get my Christmas shopping done in November, and then I go to the mall and watch people run around like idiots and drink my coffee. I think it's great. And that's what he did last year. Get your business done. Don't wait till the last friggin' minute.
But admittedly, it's easier for Chelsea, who's basically got an open checkbook, to get their business done early. I mean,
Mourinho came back.
Yeah. I mean, we do two things.
But we're not so inept that we have to sell before we can buy.
No.
Yeah, we do. We do have to sell.
No, I don't believe that.
No, we do. We absolutely do. There's not a way in the world that we're going to be buying players before selling players.
But we can certainly make one or two signings ahead of that plan, even if it means we add in 2 more, 3 more towards the end of the window. And I think that's probably to Ken's point.
I mean, I think
that's what we have to do. That statement of intent is what I think we're all craving.
Yeah,
heck, if we can get a new shirt out 2 games before the end of the season, we can get a signing in before the end of June.
And I think it needs to be that commanding midfielder, because you can't wait on that. I don't think you can wait on that and get somebody that's really going to make an impact. Because Mason is not the answer full time. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that. There's somebody better than him out there, and if you find that somebody better than him, you're going to watch Bentaleb flourish, because he's too busy covering a lot of mistakes and making his own mistakes, following Mason's lead, I think, at times. They're very young and they make mistakes. Mason, not so much young, but this is his first real shot here, and he's 5 next year? So it's time to either shit or get off the pot with Mason. I said Walker might be a surprise sell. It might be him, which would be bad because he loves the club. He really does.
He's just had a bad season. I mean, it ended badly for him at the end of last season.
Yeah.
It took him a long time to get back. We saw him on the preseason tour. He did play against Chicago, but then he was out again until the new year, and he struggled. It was clear he struggled. And then he went out injured again. So it's like I think that along with the Kabul, Kirikesh, Fazio, this rotation and infighting that appeared to be in the club really unsettled the defence. It shipped in way too many goals. And you can argue, well, did they get the protection from Bentaleb and Mason? It's not always going to be their fault. A lot of the goals we gave up were from mistakes and errors at the back, and if we can cut that out, that would have given us the extra points that we needed, and